The silent signal. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the data streaming across her monitor in the quiet hours before dawn at the SETI Institute's new quantum array in Chile. After 15 years of scanning the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, she had learned to temper her expectations. But this signal was different. It pulsed with a mathematical precision that couldn't be natural, carrying complex patterns that spoke of consciousness and intent. "Dr. Reyes," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need you to verify something." Her colleague shuffled over, coffee cup in hand. As he leaned in to examine the readings, his eyes widened. "This is structured. Too structured to be random cosmic noise." "That's what I thought." Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, running the standard verification protocols. It's being broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, each carrying what appears to be a different data stream, but they're all perfectly synchronized. The signal's complexity was far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. It spoke of technological capabilities that made Earth's most advanced quantum computers look like primitive calculators. But beneath the mathematical elegance, there was something else, a pattern that repeated with increasing urgency. "It's a distress call," Dr. Rice whispered, the realization dawning on his face. "Whatever civilization sent this, they're asking for help." Sarah nodded grimly. "And they're desperate." Within hours, observatories across Earth confirmed the signal's existence. It originated from a star system 300 light-years away, in a region of space that Earth's astronomers had largely ignored. The signal carried vast amounts of technical data, specifications for a civilization's technology, biological data about their species, and detailed information about their crisis. They called themselves the Arctians, and they were dying. Their star system was passing through an unexpected quantum filament, a cosmic phenomenon that was gradually unraveling the very fabric of space-time around their planets. Their most advanced protection systems were failing. Billions had already been lost as entire continents phased out of normal space-time, leaving behind nothing but empty craters. But what truly shocked Earth's scientists wasn't just the nature of their crisis. It was the list of civilizations that had already refused to help them. The Arctians had reached out to over 30 different advanced species, some with technology thousands of years ahead of humanity's. Each one had declined to intervene, citing various reasons. The risk was too great, the technology required was too expensive, or simply that the Arctians' fate was not their concern. "They've given up," Sarah explained to the hastily assembled UN Security Council, her hologram projected into the chamber in New York. "Their last transmission indicates they're preparing for total civilization collapse within 5 years." "And what exactly do you expect us to do, Dr. Chen?" The Russian representative's voice was sharp. "We can barely maintain a permanent presence on Mars. How could we possibly help a civilization facing problems we can barely understand?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Because we have to try. The Arctians have shared detailed technical specifications of their protective systems. Yes, their technology is far beyond ours, but that means we can approach this problem from a completely different angle. Sometimes, the simplest solutions are overlooked by those who've grown too dependent on complexity." The Chinese representative leaned forward. "You have a proposal?" "I do." Sarah pressed a button, and a new set of technical specifications appeared before the council. "We've been developing experimental quantum shielding technology for our deep space probes. It's primitive compared to Arctian tech, but it operates on fundamentally different principles. We believe that by combining our approach with their existing systems, we might be able to create a stable buffer zone around their core worlds." "The cost would be astronomical," the American representative pointed out. "And there's no guarantee of success." "No," Sarah agreed, "there isn't. But this is bigger than just saving one civilization. This is humanity's chance to prove that we deserve our place among the stars. While species far more advanced than us turned their backs, we have the opportunity to show that technology isn't the true measure of a civilization. Courage and compassion are." The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. The UN Secretary-General studied the data before him, his expression thoughtful. The risks to any mission we send would be extreme. The quantum filament could easily destroy our ships before they even reach the Archean system. I know, Sarah replied. That's why I'm volunteering to lead the mission myself. The declaration sent murmurs through the chamber. Sarah continued, her voice firm. We've already had over 3,000 volunteers from the scientific community alone. People willing to risk everything to help the species we've never met, simply because it's the right thing to do. The Secretary-General's eyes met hers. And if we fail, then we fail knowing we tried. The Archeans sent this signal believing no one would answer, that the galaxy had turned its back on them. They need to know they were wrong. They need to know that humanity, even with all our limitations and flaws, will not abandon them. The debate raged for days. Nations argued over resources, over risks, over the possibility that this could be some elaborate deception. But in the end, the images of Archean children huddled in quantum shelters, of entire cities fading into nothingness, proved too powerful to ignore. Project Aurora was approved with unprecedented global cooperation. Every nation with space capability committed resources. Private companies redirected their research and development. Universities worldwide began analyzing the Archean data, looking for solutions that their advanced technology might have overlooked. Sarah found herself at the heart of it all, working with a hastily assembled team of Earth's brightest minds. They had 3 months to prepare for launch, to modify existing ships with experimental technology that might not even work. The pressure was immense, but so was the determination. "We're really doing this," Dr. Rice said one night, as they watched construction begin on the ships that would carry them to the Archean system. "We're really going to try to save them." Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the massive vessels taking shape. "We are, and even if we fail, we're showing the galaxy something important." "What's that?" "That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our refusal to ignore a cry for help, even when everyone else has turned away." As the first ship's quantum shields powered up for testing, casting a shimmer of hope into the night sky, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Humanity was about to attempt the impossible, not for glory or gain, but simply because someone needed help. And sometimes, that was reason enough. Project Horizon. The massive hangar at the International Space Center in Kazakhstan hummed with activity. 3 experimental ships, each representing the pinnacle of human engineering, stood ready for their final modifications. Commander Maya Patel walked through the organized chaos, her footsteps echoing against the metal floor as engineers and technicians rushed around her. "Status report," she called out to her chief engineer, Dr. James Morrison, who was elbow-deep in the quantum shield generator of the lead ship Aurora. "It's not pretty," James replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "We're pushing these systems way beyond their design limits. The Archean data helped, but we're still trying to merge 2 completely different technological approaches. It's like trying to combine ancient steam engines with quantum mechanics." Maya nodded, understanding the challenge. Unlike the advanced civilizations that had rejected the Archeans' plea, humanity couldn't rely on proven technology. They had to innovate, to find solutions that no one else had considered. It was their greatest weakness, and potentially their greatest strength. Dr. Chen's latest simulations show a 60% chance of shield failure if we encounter the full force of the quantum filament. James continued, his voice grim. "And that's our best-case scenario. Then we'll have to be clever about it," Maya responded, her dark eyes studying the ship's schematics on her tablet. "We can't match the advanced species in raw power, so we'll have to outthink them." The project had drawn volunteers from every corner of Earth. Maya's crew included Russian quantum physicists, Brazilian propulsion experts, Nigerian xenobiologists, and Chinese AI specialists. Each brought unique perspectives and approaches to problems that the more advanced civilizations had deemed unsolvable. Dr. Sarah Chen joined them, her usual lab coat replaced by a flight suit. "Commander, we've received new data from the Arxian system. The quantum filaments effects are accelerating. We've lost contact with their outer colonies." Maya absorbed the news with a steady gaze. Time was running out, but rushing could be fatal. How long until the filament reaches their core worlds? 4 months at current progression rates. We'll barely make it, even with the experimental fold drives. The fold drives were another example of humanity's unconventional approach. While other species had mastered faster-than-light travel through brute force, humanity had developed a system that took advantage of existing quantum fluctuations in spacetime. It was less reliable but required far less energy they needed for their shields. In the command center overlooking the hangar, the mission's strategic team was assembling. Representatives from various space agencies debated contingency plans, while AI systems ran countless simulations. The stakes were unprecedented, not just the lives of the Arxian people, but humanity's first real test on the galactic stage. "We've received another transmission," a young communications officer announced. "It's from the Velari Assembly." The Velari were one of the most advanced species that had refused to help the Arxians. Their message was brief but clear. They strongly advised against human intervention in matters beyond their technological comprehension. Maya read the message twice, then deleted it. "Send them our thanks for their concern," she said diplomatically, "and inform them that we will proceed as planned." The preparation continued day and night. Each ship, Aurora, Horizon, and Constellation, represented different approaches to the same problem. If one failed, the others might still succeed. It was a typically human solution, not putting all their eggs in one basket. The crew selection had been controversial. Many argued that AI pilots should be used given the extreme risks, but Maya had insisted on human crews. "We need people who can think creatively, who can adapt when things go wrong," she had argued. And they will go wrong. 2 weeks before launch, they received an unexpected visitor. A representative from the Thurks, another advanced species, arrived to observe their preparations. The tall crystalline being watched silently as humans scrambled around the ships, making last-minute adjustments and improvements. "Your species continues to surprise us," the Thurks observer finally said to Maya. "Your technology is primitive, your understanding of quantum mechanics is basic, and yet you attempt what we deemed impossible." "Sometimes the greatest innovations come from those who don't know something is impossible," Maya replied. "We may not have your technology, but we have something else: determination and hope." The Thurks' crystalline structure shifted, displaying what might have been amusement. "Hope is not a scientific principle, Commander Patel." "No, but it's a human one. And right now, we're the only ones willing to try." The launch date approached with brutal speed. Final simulations were run, backup systems were tested and retested, and crews said goodbye to their families. The mission had captured the world's imagination. Billions watched the preparations, united in their hope that humanity's first major interstellar rescue mission would succeed. The night before launch, Maya found Sarah in the observation dome, staring up at the stars. "Having second thoughts?" Maya asked, joining her. Sarah shook her head. "No, just thinking about what we're about to attempt. The most advanced civilizations in our sector couldn't solve this problem, or wouldn't try." "Maybe that's exactly why we'll succeed," Maya suggested. "We're not bound by their assumptions or limitations. We're free to try the impossible. And if we fail, then we fail knowing we gave everything we had to help others. That's what humanity does at its best. We reach out, even when we're not sure we can make a difference." The stars seemed to shine brighter that night, as if bearing witness to humanity's audacious plan. In hangars around the world, final checks were being completed. Engineers made their last adjustments, doctors reviewed medical protocols, and crews prepared for a journey that would take them further than any humans had gone before. Project Horizon was about to begin, and with it, humanity's chance to prove that compassion and courage could accomplish what advanced technology alone could not. As Maya looked at the ships that would carry them across the stars, She felt a deep sense of pride. They might not be the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, but they carried something unique, the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to stand by while others suffered. Tomorrow, they would launch. Tomorrow, they would show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The journey between stars. 3 weeks into their journey, the first major crisis struck. Aurora's quantum shields flickered ominously as the ship detected unusual disturbances in spacetime, echoes of the devastating filament that lay ahead. Commander Maya Patel watched from the bridge as her crew responded with the adaptability that had become humanity's trademark. Shield harmonics are destabilizing. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka reported from her station, fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The ripples are stronger than our models predicted. Dr. Sarah Chen was already analyzing the data, her expression intense. These aren't just echoes. The filament is expanding faster than we thought. It's learning, adapting to the Arxion's defenses. That was the problem with quantum phenomena. They didn't always follow predictable rules. The advanced species who had refused to help had based their decisions on complex mathematical models. But reality had a way of defying even the most sophisticated predictions. "Rear out power from the secondary systems," Maya ordered, "and get me a direct link to Horizon and Constellation. We need to coordinate our approach." The 3 ships had been traveling in a triangular formation, each testing slightly different shield configurations. Now that strategy was paying off. While Aurora struggled with the quantum disturbances, Horizon's modified shields were holding steady. "Commander," Dr. James Morrison's voice came through from engineering. "I think I see what's happening. The filament's quantum signature is resonating with our shield frequency. But if we modulate the shields randomly instead of maintaining a stable pattern, it might slip right past us," Sarah finished, catching on to the idea. "The advanced species would never try this. Their whole approach is based on overwhelming force and perfect control." "Do it," Maya commanded. "Horizon, Constellation, are you receiving this?" The other ships acknowledged, and within minutes, all 3 vessels had implemented the new shield protocol. It wasn't elegant. The ships shuddered and shook as their shields fluctuated wildly. But it worked. They were passing through the quantum disturbances like leaves riding random air currents. Sometimes being unpredictable is better than being powerful, Maya mused, watching the sensor readings stabilize. The victory was short-lived. 4 days later, they encountered something far more challenging, a Velari monitoring station. The crystalline structure hung in space like a massive geometric snowflake, its sensors clearly tracking the human ships. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Diego Ramirez announced. The Velari message was transmitted in perfect Earth standard, their tone carrying what could only be described as condescension. "Human vessels, you have entered a zone of extreme quantum instability. Your primitive technology cannot possibly survive what lies ahead. Return to your system immediately." Maya stood from her command chair, straightening her uniform. "This is Commander Maya Patil of the Earth Rescue Fleet. We appreciate your concern, but we will proceed as planned." "You do not comprehend the forces you are dealing with," the Velari responded. "We have studied the quantum filament for decades. It cannot be stopped by your level of technology." "Perhaps not," Maya agreed. "But we've learned that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. We may not match your technological advancement, but we have other strengths." The Velari's response was immediate and dismissive. "Your emotional attachment to the Arxian cause is admirable but misguided. We calculate a 99.3% probability of your mission's failure." Sarah stepped forward, unable to contain herself. "And what's the probability you calculated for doing nothing? For letting an entire civilization die because helping them was deemed too difficult?" There was a long pause before the Velari responded. "We cannot be held responsible for the natural progression of cosmic phenomena." "No," Maya said firmly, "but we are all responsible for our choices. We choose to help, regardless of the odds. That's what makes us human." The Villari station made no further attempts to communicate as the three ships passed by. But they weren't the last advanced species to try to deter the mission. Over the next 2 weeks, they received messages from 4 other civilizations, each warning them of the futility of their effort. The messages might have been discouraging if the crew hadn't been so focused on their constant battles with space-time itself. The quantum disturbances grew stronger as they pressed forward, requiring constant adjustments and innovations. Systems that worked one day would fail the next, forcing the human crews to improvise and adapt continuously. "It's like jazz," Dr. Morrison commented one evening as they recalibrated the shields for the 100th time. "We're not playing from a fixed score. We're improvising, responding to each new challenge as it comes." The analogy spread through the fleet, becoming something of a rallying cry. When faced with a problem that seemed impossible, someone would inevitably say, "Time to jazz it up," and the crew would find a new, unconventional solution. Their approach was paying off. While each ship had suffered damage and close calls, they were making steady progress toward the Archean system. The quantum filaments effects were visible now, strange distortions in space that bent light in impossible ways and caused their instruments to give contradictory readings. "We're receiving new data from the Archean monitoring stations," Sarah announced one morning, her voice tight with concern. "The filaments effects have reached their secondary population centers. They're losing cities daily now." Maya studied the tactical display, watching the representation of their target system. They were still 2 weeks away at their current speed. "Options. We could try to push the fold drives harder," James suggested. "It's risky. They weren't designed for this kind of sustained operation." "The Villari would say it's impossible," Sarah added with a slight smile. "Then that's exactly what we'll do," Maya decided. "Have all ships prepare for maximum fold drive output. We'll show them what primitive technology can do when pushed by human determination." The next few days tested every limit of the ships, the crews, and the very laws of physics themselves. The fold drives whined in protest as they were pushed beyond their design capabilities. Shield systems threatened to collapse as they encountered increasingly severe quantum disturbances. But through it all, the human crews persevered. When conventional solutions failed, they invented new ones. When systems broke down, they found ways to repair them in flight. Every challenge was met with a combination of scientific insight and human creativity that the advanced species had never considered. "I think I understand now," Sarah said to Maya during a rare quiet moment. They were watching the quantum distortions through the observation window. The space ahead of them twisted into impossible shapes by the filament's influence. "Understand what? Why we might succeed where the others wouldn't even try. They see the universe as a problem to be solved with pure logic and overwhelming force. But we see it as a challenge to be met with innovation and heart." Maya nodded, watching as another quantum wave approached their ships. "Jazz it up," she ordered with a smile, and the fleet once again adapted to face whatever the universe threw at them next. Crossing the void, the Archean system materialized before them like a nightmare made real. Where there should have been the orderly dance of planets around their star, there was instead a twisted ballet of quantum devastation. Entire continents flickered in and out of normal space-time. Cities that had stood for millennia dissolved into quantum foam, and the very fabric of reality rippled like water in a storm. "My God," Dr. Morrison whispered from his engineering station. The sensors were overwhelmed by the quantum chaos, sending cascades of contradictory data through Aurora's systems. Commander Maya Patel stood at the center of her bridge, her expression set with determination. "Status report on all ships." Constellation reports shield stability at 40%. Lieutenant Tanaka called out. "Horizons down to 35. We're holding at 43, but dropping." They had arrived, but the real challenge was only beginning. The quantum filament wasn't just destroying the Archean worlds, it was actively unraveling the laws of physics around them. Every simulation they had run, every plan they had made, was being tested against a reality far more chaotic than they had imagined. "We're receiving a transmission from the Arxian Defense Command," Communications Officer Ramirez announced. They're asking if we're real. They thought we were another quantum echo." Dr. Sarah Chen moved to the main view screen, studying the devastating scene before them. "They've lost hope," she said softly. "After so many advanced species abandoned them, they couldn't believe we'd actually come." Maya activated the ship-wide comm. "This is Commander Patel to all crews. I know what we're seeing looks impossible. I know our systems are telling us this is beyond our capabilities. But remember why we came. Remember what humanity does best. We find a way." The response was immediate. Throughout the three ships, crews that had been momentarily paralyzed by the scope of destruction before them snapped back into action. They hadn't come this far to fail now. "Dr. Chen, what are we seeing here?" Maya asked, focusing on the tactical problem before them. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the massive amount of data pouring in. The filament's not just destroying things, it's creating a cascade effect. Each breakdown in space-time causes more breakdowns around it. The Arxians' quantum shields are actually making it worse. They're too rigid, too structured. They're giving the filament something to push against. "Like trying to stop a flood with a wall," Dr. Morrison added, catching on to her train of thought. "Instead of letting the water flow around you." "Exactly," Sarah nodded. "The advanced species approach, using overwhelming force to create an impenetrable barrier, is exactly the wrong solution. We need to work with the quantum chaos, not against it." Maya studied the tactical display, watching as another Arxian city faded from existence. "How? We barely have enough power to maintain our own shields." "Jazz it up," Sarah said with a sudden smile. "Remember how we modulated our shields randomly to get through the quantum disturbances? What if we did the opposite here? What if we created a pattern so complex, so unpredictable, that it actually stabilizes the space around it? Like fighting fire with fire," Morrison mused. "Using chaos to control chaos." It was an insane idea. Any of the advanced species would have dismissed it immediately. But humanity had come too far to not try everything. "How do we do it?" Maya asked. "We'll need all three ships," Sarah explained quickly, each one projecting a different quantum frequency, but all of them synchronized in a constantly changing pattern. Like a three-dimensional jazz improvisation, but with quantum fields. "The power requirements would be enormous," Morrison warned. "We'd have to divert everything. Life support, weapons, even artificial gravity." "Do it," Maya ordered. "Contact Horizon and Constellation. Begin synchronization of shield frequencies." The next hours were a symphony of controlled chaos. The three human ships moved into position around the largest remaining Arxian city, their shields pulsing with ever-changing patterns of quantum energy. Engineers who had been trained to maintain stable systems were now programming random variations. Scientists who had spent their careers seeking predictable results were embracing uncertainty. The Arxians watched in bewilderment as the primitive human vessels executed maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Their own massive shield generators, examples of the most advanced technology in the galaxy, stood idle as three small Earth ships attempted what their makers had deemed impossible. "Shield synchronization at 90%, Tanaka reported, beginning quantum field modulation." The effect was subtle at first. The constant flicker of quantum destruction around them seemed to hesitate, like a wave encountering an unexpected obstacle. Then, slowly but surely, a bubble of stability began to form around the human ships and the Arxian city they protected. "It's working," Sarah breathed, watching her readings in amazement. "The random patterns are actually creating zones of quantum stability. The filament can't get a grip on space-time because we're not giving it anything solid to latch onto." "Like trying to grab smoke," Morrison added, his hands dancing across his engineering controls as he balanced power between the ship's critical systems. The Arxian Defense Command was quick to recognize what was happening. Their transmissions were filled with a mixture of disbelief and desperate hope. "How? How are you doing this? Our most advanced systems couldn't. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the hardest to see, Maya replied, especially when you're too focused on pure technological advancement. But their victory was far from complete. As the quantum stability zone expanded, the strain on the human ships increased. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems were pushed far beyond their design limits. Hull integrity failing on decks 4 through 7, Tanaka reported. Shield generators are reaching critical temperatures. Constellation reports total power failure in their aft section, Ramirez added. They're running on emergency systems only. Maya stood firm, her eyes fixed on the Arxian city they were saving. Hold position. Divert all remaining power to the shields. We didn't come this far to fail now. Throughout the ships, crew members worked with desperate intensity. When systems failed, they improvised repairs. When power failed in one section, they manually rerouted it from another. Every person on board understood that they were the last hope for millions of Arxian lives. Commander, Sarah called out suddenly. I'm detecting something new. The quantum stability zone. It's becoming self-sustaining. The random patterns they had created were actually teaching space-time how to resist the filament's effects. Like an immune system learning to fight off a disease, the very fabric of reality was adapting to their improvisational defense. Send the data to the Arxians, Maya ordered. Show them how to replicate the effect with their own shield generators. As the Arxian systems came online, synchronized with the human ship's chaotic patterns, the zone of stability grew larger. City by city, continent by continent, they began to push back against the quantum destruction that had nearly annihilated an entire civilization. The human ships were battered, their systems strained to the breaking point, but they had succeeded where the most advanced species in the galaxy have failed, not through overwhelming force or technological superiority, but through the uniquely human combination of innovation, determination, and the willingness to embrace chaos itself as a solution. Legacy of Hope. 1 month after the human fleet's arrival, the Arxian system pulsed with new life. Where quantum destruction had once threatened to erase an entire civilization, there was now stability. Different from what had existed before, but stable nonetheless. The human ships floated in high orbit, their battle-scarred hulls testament to the price of victory. Commander Maya Patel stood in the great hall of the Arxian High Council, the massive crystal dome above showing the twisted but now stable quantum patterns that had become the system's new normal. Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James Morrison stood beside her, along with representatives from Constellation and Horizon. They looked small among the tall, ethereal forms of the Arxian counselors. You have done more than save our worlds, High Counselor Zinra spoke, her translucent form shifting with emotion. You have taught us, and perhaps the galaxy, a lesson we had forgotten in our pursuit of technological perfection. The hall was crowded not just with Arxians, but with observers from many of the advanced species that had refused to help. The Velari, the Cthulks, and others watched with what might have been humility, though it was sometimes hard to tell with such alien beings. We only did what anyone should have done, Maya responded, but Zinra raised a hand to stop her. No, the High Counselor said firmly. What you did was extraordinary. When our most advanced allies saw only impossible odds and refused to act, you, a species barely beginning its journey to the stars, chose to help. But more than that, you succeeded where they had calculated only failure was possible. A Velari representative stepped forward, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. We have analyzed your solution extensively. It is elegant in its chaos. We would never have conceived of using randomness itself as a stabilizing force. Our pursuit of perfect control blinded us to other possibilities. Sarah couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best solutions come from accepting that we can't control everything. Humanity learned that lesson early in our development, that adaptation and improvisation are often more valuable than raw power. The gathered dignitaries murmured among themselves. The human solution. using controlled chaos to create stability, had challenged fundamental assumptions about how advanced civilizations approached problems. It was a paradigm shift that would have repercussions throughout the galaxy. "Your ships," the Thurks observer noted, "they are severely damaged. Your technology, primitive by our standards, was pushed far beyond its design capabilities. You risked everything." "That's what humans do," Morrison replied simply. "When the cause is right, we find a way. We improvise, we adapt, we overcome." The aftermath of their success had rippled through galactic society. The advanced species, long comfortable in their technological superiority, were being forced to reevaluate their assumptions. The Arxian's quantum shield integration complex now housed research teams from dozens of worlds, all studying how humanity's primitive solution had succeeded where advanced technology had failed. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity itself. They were no longer seen as just another young species taking its first steps into space. They had proven that technological advancement wasn't the only measure of a civilization's worth. "We have received requests from 17 different species," Zinra announced to the assembly, "asking for human assistance with various crises. It seems your reputation for solving the impossible has spread quickly." Maya exchanged glances with her fellow officers. They had expected this. Success had a way of creating new challenges. "Earth will help where we can," she said carefully, "but our greatest strength isn't in our technology or even our methods. It's in our willingness to try, to risk failure in the attempt to help others." The Arxian High Council had prepared a ceremony to honor the human crews, but what followed was something more meaningful. One by one, representatives from the advanced species came forward to acknowledge their error in refusing to help and to express their desire to learn from humanity's example. "Perhaps," the Velari representative observed, "true advancement lies not in the perfection of technology, but in the wisdom to know when to set aside our assumptions and try something new." Later, as the human crews prepared their damaged ships for the long journey home, Maya found Sarah standing at a viewport, watching the quantum patterns that now danced permanently around the Arxian worlds. "It's beautiful, in its own way," Sarah said softly. "Not the stable system it was before, but something new. Something that reminds everyone that sometimes the best solution isn't the most obvious one." Maya nodded, thinking of all they had accomplished. The Arxians are already adapting to it, building new cities that work with the quantum patterns instead of trying to shut them out. They're calling it the human approach. Embracing chaos is part of the solution instead of trying to eliminate it entirely. "And the advanced species?" "Learning," Maya smiled. "Sometimes the most powerful lesson is being shown that there's still more to learn, no matter how advanced you become." The human fleet's return to Earth was marked by celebration, but also by a deeper understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. They had proven that being less technologically advanced didn't mean being less capable. Sometimes it meant being more innovative, more willing to try the impossible. As the ships settled into Earth orbit, battered but triumphant, the crews knew they had done more than save a civilization. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their spirit, their willingness to help others, to risk everything in the attempt to do what was right. The quantum patterns in the Arxian system would remain as a permanent reminder of this truth. They were different from the orderly patterns the advanced species preferred, but they were stable in their own way, just as humanity's place in the galaxy was now secure, not through overwhelming force or technological superiority, but through the demonstration of something far more valuable: the courage to try when others would not, the creativity to find solutions where others saw only impossible problems, and the compassion to reach out when others turned away. As news of their success spread throughout the galaxy, it carried with it a simple but powerful message. Sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most sophisticated technology, but the one with the biggest heart.